welcome to taking another sneak peek at Mama Bliss Coaching. And today I am super honored to present to you my friend Kimberly Beck from newsparkcoaching.com. Welcome, Kimberly.
Thank you.
Kimberly is a coach for burnt out dieters who want to transform their relationship with food and their bodies. So we're super blessed to have you here. But you have a real life bliss related question to ask me, and it is, how can I maximize the time I have to purposefully move toward my creative business goals while being a stay-at-home schooling mama? Looking forward. I was so excited to get that question from you, sweetie, because
Oh,
yeah, I can totally relate. So thank you.
awesome.
Okay, so do you want to get into this a little bit more? Share with me, yeah, some of the challenges that the situation's presenting itself sometimes with.
Yeah, well, I'm home all day with my son, and homeschooling doesn't take up all the time that I have during the day. Um, but I'm finding that it's hard for me to set aside a specified amount of time to work on my creative projects and or my business projects. And I think a lot of it just has to do with mindset. Like I feel like I need to have 4 hours at a stretch in order to accomplish anything. Also, I'm not getting really clear on those individual steps that can move me forward. So it's like the mindset kind of muddies up my mind, and then, it's just attention splatter all over the place.
Yes, I understand the attention splatter. I think it has something to do with the expulsion of the placenta after birth. This is my theory. Let's take a look at this. So, one of the tools I like to use with my clients is called the credit report. I feel that, especially with mamas, that if we just take a moment once in a while to make a list of what it is we have accomplished, either that day, um, seeing what we were able to accomplish in between, keeping our children alive and, homeschooling them and tending to all these other tasks, that it's pretty amazing how much we actually do get accomplished in the day. But we can also like take that perspective even further back into, what we've done in the last year. But I thought with you, just because I took a look at your site and I can tell just from what we've touched upon from our connection through social media is I have a feeling you've accomplished a lot. You seem like a very a brilliant woman. So I thought maybe we would take a couple of moments to write a credit report of all that it is that you've accomplished even before you had your beautiful boy.
Okay, well, the things that are coming to mind, the first thing that came to my mind was that I've been married for 18 years.
That's
And I think that's a pretty big accomplishment, especially considering the fact that my husband and I only knew each other for 5 months before we got married. And it was just one of those things where we just knew right away. We knew within 2 weeks that we wanted to be married. And that was a pretty big risk. And it could have gone
was
so badly, you know. So, I mean, the fact that we have grown together and we have evolved together for 18 years, I think that's a pretty major accomplishment. Um,
yeah, that's a good one.
the
We were
other,
married for 10 years and I was all like huge blog post about it, like 10 years. Can you believe that? 18th impressive.
yeah, yeah.
Okay.
Um, so the other, that's kind of a relationship, accomplishment. A big creative accomplishment that I'm really proud of is that I actually started writing songs in 2001, and the first song that I ever wrote, I just thought it was a complete fluke. Like, oh wow, that was cool. I wonder if that's ever going to happen again. And then I kept on getting more and more ideas, and that has evolved over the past, what, 11, 12 years. And so I took all those songs and I created my own like presentation, like, like a concert type of thing. I called it a living room concert where I would go into people's homes and I would present my story and my songs to small groups of women and have like a sharing time afterward. And it was, I feel like that was a huge creative accomplishment for me. And so I'm proud of that. And then the most recent one is just this whole coaching journey. This time last year, I was just beginning to think about, I might want to become a coach. I think I'm going to explore that possibility. And, um, and so I went to a 2 day, coaching intensive and I was like, okay, I'm doing this thing. And so last summer I took my first coaching, training course and then I built this website and I launched my business and I feel like that was a really big accomplishment and I had to overcome a lot of fear in order to take those steps.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so those are kind of the some three major things that I've accomplished.
Very cool. Three major things. Wow. I'm still tingling about being married for 18 years and then living room concert. Oh my goodness. Anyway, everything is very, very, you are an interesting lady. Okay. So, I am just curious. So the coaching journey, I know that's a lot of work and especially like launching a site and getting the word out. So what was the time frame? How long ago was that?
It was just, I mean, last summer was my first coach training course, right? And then after I completed that course, um, it was I think August that I started working on the website, and I got the website launched in November, and that's the point at which I was like, okay, I'm open for business, everybody.
I'm just curious. I was asking about when the time frame, because obviously you were a mom when you were going through your training. Were you a mom when you were doing these? Oh, the living room concerts sound awesome. Do you live far from now?
Do I live
Say
far from where?
Nelson, BC. You're doing maybe. But
Well,
were
yes,
you as well during the living room concerts?
yes, yes, I was.
Okay, so it sounds to me like you have experience of, dabbling in your passions, both, in a lucrative sense, like being pro, um, while you're being a mom. And I'm wondering, um, what tools or how did you make it work then? What worked for you then in order to, organize your time and carve out the time to pursue those activities? What kind of like getting childcare, or do you have an allocated time to actually um, hone in on your studies? Or, yeah, what worked in the past?
When my son was an infant, I did have childcare, maybe once a week or a couple of times a week. Of course, I had nap time, which was, good. Uh, but gosh, I mean, I can't even remember how I did it. I mean, I just sneaked it in, whenever I could. And um, I know when I was doing my coach training, obviously I couldn't do any of this without my husband's help, right? Without his support and without his stepping up and spending time with Evan, my son, when I needed to do these other things. So like when I was doing my coach training, I would spend the evenings, maybe an hour each night doing my homework, and then after the training was done, I would be working on my blog during that time. So I think my husband is a really good resource, to help me with the childcare aspect.
Very cool. Okay. So while you were talking, I was just taking notes of what has worked in the past. So, and just pay attention to your body when I read this out of what seems it might trigger something like how you can make it work now in order to really, dedicate the time to both. So you mentioned a melange of childcare and your husband help, um, nap time, but I imagine he's 8, so that's not going to work. You sneaked it in, and in the evenings.
Hmm.
So just looking at that way, how do you think you might be able to make a new version of some tools to use now, like using some of these ideas in order to devote some consistent time each day to work on what your new business launching or, just moving this forward a bit more?
Hmm.
Do you, for you, any kind of trigger new ideas or revisit some old?
Well, I mean, I think at minimum, I could
Hmm.
probably spend 1 hour of devoted time in the morning, 1 hour of devoted time in the afternoon, um, and possibly, if I'm not too exhausted, maybe 1 hour of time in the evening, so that I'm not doing like 4 hours away from my son at a time, but I know that he's able to entertain himself during, and for at least an hour. And then my husband can be hanging out with him in the evening for an hour. So that's
Absolutely. So
something
that's
practical.
3 hours a day. That's like serious part-time job. Or if you, yeah, so let's say you work Monday through Friday, that's like 15 hours.
Yeah.
Yeah. How does that feel to you to think? And then another way that helps me to look at, because we're in very similar kind of situations, but instead of homeschooling, I'm like milking and then processing the milk afterwards. It's
Whoa.
it seems to me what worked for me in the past, like thinking when I was in school that the more that was on my plate, the more on my plate, the time I did have to like just sit down and really hone in on a project at hand, um, the less time I had for it, it just kind of forced me to stay more focused. So that's just a reminder that I like to keep in the back of my mind.
Hmm.
Um, so what works for me is just opening my eyes and heart to any quotes. Like I read a lot of self-help books. Surprise, surprise. And just allowing it to be an oracle, just like asking that small question, and just if you could find a quote that kind of serves to that, this is just a short spurt of time, if I can just like hone in that focus. um and another little piece of advice, if I can offer it to you, is a long time ago I used to have this company. It was a handmade hemp soap company. It was called Doobie Clean. And one of my personal, accomplishments that I'm proud of is I was able to sell the company. So that felt,
Mm.
and so I told the girl, like she asked me, do you have any like business advice? I'm like, the only thing I can advise to you right now is because I was actually my daughter was a baby, and I just didn't go to bed unless I did something for the business every day. So that's kind of like the one piece of advice I offer myself still. It's just um, I have a day timer. I don't have it handy. I've talked about it on the blog before, the day timer I love, and it's just a day timer, but it offers like a funnel service where you can write down your list. It's called the Planner Pad. So it offers some space at the top of the page where you can write all your to-dos in all these different life sections, so in different columns, and then you funnel it down to every day. So I just ensure I pull something from all my to-do lists and then just put three things. Every day when I wake up, I pull three things from my to-do list, blah, to just three
Hmm.
things. And then I'm gentle on myself. We were talking about releasing perfection at the beginning of this call before we recorded. And I just be gentle with myself. If I can get one of these things off my plate today, it's been a good day. So just be gentle with yourself. And once in a while, just fill out that credit report because, whoa, you are neat. Wow. Accomplishments, or I'm just in awe. And
Oh,
I'd like to talk to you a little bit more afterwards, but thank you for allowing all the viewers out there to have a little sneak peek. And
thank you.